Hey everybody, Mr. D here, just checking in from Math Muscle. We're going to cover in this video how to find two vectors that are perpendicular to one another, or in this case here, given two vectors that have unknown values of t in each. How can we go about finding t if we know that the two given vectors a and b are perpendicular? Well, if they're perpendicular, then we know the angle between those two vectors. And we know that that angle between the two vectors is 90 degrees. Angle between two vectors, that should perhaps remind you of a video that you may have seen already with respect to the scalar product in geometric form, where we have cos theta, which is theta, the angle between the two vectors, of v vector dot w vector, or the scalar product of v vector w vector divided by the magnitude of each of those two vectors. But if we know the angle is 90, in other words, if between the two vectors, in other words, the vectors are indeed perpendicular, cosine of 90, you may recall, is actually 0. So that would mean that if we clear fractions, we get 0 on the left and multiply both sides by these scalars, which would still leave us with 0 on the left, but just with v dot w on the right. So that's a very useful maneuver when we're given perpendicular vectors, that the scalar product of two vectors is 0 if it is known that the two vectors are perpendicular. So there you have it. So we're going to go ahead and reveal the solution for perpendicularity. The two vectors scalar product is 0, as mentioned above, in using the formula booklet. So we're going to go ahead and use the scalar product. In this form, they're in Cartesian coordinate form, so we multiply the x components and we add it to the multiplication of the y components. And now we basically have a prior learning equation where we expand, in other words, remove brackets, simplify any like terms, in other words, these t squareds are like and the t terms are like. And then from there, we can common factor. And now we have a product using the null product principle. Either this factor is equal to 0 or that factor is equal to 0 because we know their product is 0. We go ahead and do that. We get t equals 0 from this particular factor and t equals 2 for that particular factor. And there you have it. For those two values of t, we know that the given vectors are perpendicular. I hope that helps. Stay tuned to more videos from Math Muscle, and hopefully we can help you out and consolidate your understanding on a variety of topics.